All right, it's time to get started again. I hope everyone got a good lunch. We have Nathan Reynolds and Tiffany and Morgan. I always gonna forget. And Rachel Briscoe, from the Department of Safety. Rachel did want to talk about the protection order, but she's not in here, so we'll have to fit her in. There's a little clicky thing if you want to advance. The button that's turned off is the right button.
Good afternoon. I'm Nathan Reynolds. Most of you have probably received an email from me at some point in the past year since I took over the information processing department. We are in charge of everything court reporting. If you send anything to the Department of Safety, it's coming through our office one way or another. We spread it out across to each individual unit of the department.
Real quick, someone's asking about audio.
Oh,
Just before we get too far in.
so the mic is on. You got a test.
Test.
Oh. So.
That's my contact information right there at the top. Karen Chapman was going to be presenting with you today. Instead, we got Director Morgan, expert of everything. We'll have a Q&A at the end of the slideshow. If you guys have any questions, if we can't get to you, you can always email me and I'll forward it to a direct person. I can answer the question for you if I can't answer it myself. All right. There's several ways to send reports to the Department of Safety. Most commonly, especially general sessions and criminal courts, are going to be sending data files through third-party court software. You have the e-services court reporting portal. You can email court action reports to the DOSHS court reporting email, or you can mail court action reports to the state of Tennessee, PO Box 945 in Nashville. I'll leave that up for just a moment so you can write that down if you need it. We're also going to pass this out to you all through email or electronically if you guys need to go back and look at it later.
Nathan, quick question. Is faxing no longer the way you want stuff? No more faxes, is that right?
If you have the fax number, you can send it, but the majority of the faxes we get in, our system doesn't pick it up. Is what I've been finding. So the best way would be if you're going to be sending us a court action report.
Does it work as corrective abstracts?
What's up?
Does it work for corrective abstracts?
Yes.
It does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any report you can send to that email. And we'll process it, get it where it needs to go. Third-party software. You have a software vendor, it connects to a state server through what we call the SFTP process. We have a whole team that's dedicated to that. If you're getting new software, you'll be working with them to get a PPK password key and access to that server. It sends data files containing reports such as convictions, FTAs, default payment plans, traffic school, compliance, and criminal revocations. The data file has certain values that need to be met in order for it to be processed correctly. If there's any report and error in that data file, that's what gets sent to the staff department or department staff to work and correct. So if something isn't processed, it's waiting on a work queue for us to work. These can also be found on the court portal under the court reporting errors for you guys to correct on your side if you want as well. You like waiting on us to get to it. I only have 7 employees that are working in those work queues. So if it gets backlogged, it could take them, right now we're backed up about a week and a half. Typically where we're at. How long it will take to process something added to an account. Questions regarding this type of reporting, that DOSHS core reporting? Any of your core reporting questions, you can forward to that email. I have 4 staff members that monitor, including myself. If we can't get the answer for you, we'll find someone who will. All right, the e-services court portal. Most of you probably picked up the handout that I had out there at the table. This court portal we launched back in March. If you have court reporting software, submitting restrictions on the portal is not really relevant to you, but you can still use it to make compliance items, look up driver inquiries, and submit one-off reports that you need processed immediately to accounts. As long as it's a Tennessee driver and they have a valid Tennessee driver's license, not valid, the Tennessee driver's license, You can post in real time to their account through the portal. There's no waiting process at all. If there is something wrong with the report, or if it's an out-of-state driver, the driver's license number doesn't match up, different last name, it'll get sent to that work queue for my staff to work. Different things you can submit are compliance items, convictions, default on payment plans, e-citation. This is something that we just added. If trooper tickets type e-citations, you can put in the e-citation number, it'll populate everything for you. So you don't have to type it all in and just hit submit. Failure to appears, pending criminal, which is default on criminal offenses and traffic schools. You can also view your online submissions made on the portal. So this is a good way for you to keep your records and you'll be able to go back and look on what you've submitted through the portal for your smaller court if you don't have third-party software. You can view rejected reports from the department. If we have rejected a report, you can look it up and it will give you the reason why. There's only a list of 7 to 8 options that we will select from, such as account not found, out-of-state driver, non-process violation, something of that nature. It will give you just a general idea of why we rejected it. You can always reach out and we'll detail them more if you need us to. You can also view and correct your errors from your electronic reporting. These are your data file submissions that come. If there's an error, it will be populated on this list. It mirrors the staff's work queue to the T. So if they correct something, it'll come off your list. If you correct something, it comes off ours. Just a process that we decided to give you all to process these items a little bit easier instead of waiting on us to get to it if we're backlogged. There's also a driver inquiry where you can look up driver's reinstatement requirements. You can print out these requirements for the driver directly from the website. This also lets you know what type of compliance item you can submit for the driver. It'll say needs court certification, inventory revocation. So you'll submit the court certification, satisfied citation, submit the satisfied full or payment plan. It'll lift that restriction for them. Amendments, corrections, and reporting errors can be sent to the court liaison at email.court@tn.gov. These are any of your corrected reports. We'll have to go through them. They will need a court action report filled out detailing the error or correction that needs to be made and why. Just for auditing purposes, this is the only way we'll be able to make any corrections. Whenever you submit the court action report, you need to be as detailed as possible. And we don't give much space down there at the bottom, but just plain some of your mandatory offenses. Just saying sent an error is not enough. You say sent an error, why? Reporting fiasco, something, whatever the case may be. All right, we're going to go into a little bit on the FR side now, get away from the reporting. If a driver is convicted of certain offenses or fails to take required actions, the department is authorized to suspend a Tennessee driver's license, revoke a license, cancel a license, and revoke driving privileges and the ability to obtain a license. Suspensions can be avoided if a driver takes specific action within a certain time period. This is typically you'll get a letter saying you have 30 days to comply with the court, or we're going to suspend your license. Revocations. These cannot be avoided based on conviction of certain offenses. Revocations often have a mandatory length of revocation. The driver is not eligible to regain their driving privileges until the specified time period is passed and provided all requirements. These are your DUIs.
Used to test.
This is their son of that.
Leaving the scene of an accident, refused to test.
No, they're not. That's not.
That's not mandatory, sorry.
Cancellations can usually be avoided if the driver takes specific action within a specific time period. Cancellations are often a result of termination of the driver is not eligible for a driver's license based on documentation that they submitted to obtain a driver's license or due to driving privileges withdrawn in another state. You all probably won't have to deal with that very much because it's usually something from another court out of state or a different court in general that will have to submit paperwork on their behalf. All right. Different types of eligibility. Yeah, eligible restricted, eligible temp restricted. All indicate the driver has provided their reinstatement requirements and can be reissued. Reissuance can be completed at any driver service center. Review pending activities. You guys don't have a list, but the driver inquiry tab will tell you everything that their requirements are for their reinstatement fees, how much they're gonna have to pay. Suspend, revoked, and canceled all indicate driver still has remaining reinstatement requirements that must be satisfied. Once again, reviewing the eligibility date, you can do that through the driver inquiry portion of the portal. They'll tell you they're suspended, revoked, eligible for reissue, eligible, restricted, whatever the case may be, and the reinstatement fees that they have. All requirements can be found on the driver inquiry feature of the e-services court portal. If only a fee is required, then a driver may be eligible to reissue after paying the fees on the new iPad kiosks, which are floating around, or on e-services. We can also go to a reinstatement center and pay their fees. If reinstatement documents are required, the driver must visit a reinstatement center or submit the documents via e-services, fax, or mail. Court compliance items can also be submitted on the court portal. This isn't a requirement for you all, but we offer it to help get customers on the road and get them reinstated faster. If you're willing to help them out. Typically, someone elderly that's not very tech savvy has trouble with the internet. You can submit it for them on the court portal, get them reinstated a lot sooner. Mandatory actions. Revocations are generally based upon court conviction for certain offenses and cannot be avoided. Non-mandatory actions are suspensions and cancellations that may be based upon conviction or other activity. If the driver takes certain steps, an action may be avoided. This is a list of your mandatory offenses. You got DUI, implied consent, underage DUI, leaving the scene of an accident, fleeing and evading the vehicle, and so on. Possible suspensions. These are the ones where they will have 30 days to comply. They'll get that letter in the mail. From the date of that letter, they have 30 days to come back to your court, make compliance, and have it submitted with their suspension. Reinstatement fees. There's a separate reinstatement fee for each suspension or revocation, and fees occur as more suspension or revocations are added. Reinstatement fees vary from $25 to $103, depending on the reason for suspension or revocation. Other fees that may also be assessed are $75 failure surrender license fees and $50 SR22 fees. Reinstatement compliance documents. One or more documents may be required to clear a driver suspension. You got court documents, insurance documents, drug and alcohol, or driver education courses, and proof of interlock installation. You all will typically only deal with the court documents, but on that driver inquiry, you will tell them if they have these other documents that need to be submitted, that you can give them, and they'll get them on the right track. Court documents. The look of court documents may vary, but all must include the same required information. Name of the court, telephone and address, driver's full name, license number, and date of birth, description of the violation and TCA of the offense, citation, docket, or case number, violation and conviction dates, the date satisfied, and whether it's paid in full, waived, or on a payment plan. It also needs a clerk's signature and seal. If it does not have that signature or seal, we can't verify it's a legit document. For all we know, they printed it out themselves and sent it to us. Certifications. There's different types of compliance items you can submit on the portal. There's a list of 20 something right now. I'm about to come in the process of knocking it down to about 5 that will be available for you because those are only ones you'll use. If you look on the driver inquiry, it'll tell you exactly what it is. If it says court certification, that means it is a mandatory offense and it requires a proof from the court that they've been satisfied in full in order to reinstate. And satisfied citation means they're on a payment plan or they paid their fees or fines. Satisfied criminal offense, if they were revoked for defaulting on a criminal offense, you can submit that satisfied document as well.
These mandatory court certifications cannot be on the payment plan.
If all mandatory offenses need to be paid in full, they cannot be put on the payment plan. We will not process it until it is completely paid. Conviction interlock. This is required after convictions of DUI or refuse to test and is submitted electronically by the ignition interlock provider. Removal of the device and license restriction upon completion of the requirement may be compliance based, may be waived in very limited circumstances. guys want to?
Do a Q&A afterwards. I'm sure some here a lot of questions will come up.
Restricted licenses, drivers of certain types of suspensions or revocations may apply for a restricted license while the driving privileges suspended or revoked. Driver must present a court order or other authorization to apply for a restricted license. So your DUI, implied consents, default on citation payment plans, default on criminal offense payment plans, driver improvement and child support. They can be put on restricted licenses or they drive to and from work within certain window timeframes. All right, and up here I have some contacts on my DOSHS court reporting. Any of your court reporting questions, feel free to email, send the email to that one. If it's not court reporting related, we will push it out to the correct department. No problem at all. Like I said, I have 4 to 5 staff members in there looking at it at all times. It's going to be the easiest way to get a response. I also have my email up there. You can email me directly if you need to. If you're not getting a response from that email above, and I'll see what's going on with that. There's also the email.court, which is your court liaison, all your requests, all of your corrections, submitted abstracts, stuff of that nature, you can go to that email. Manager of that's Karen Chapman. The above emails are not for public use. Emails for the public will not be answered. They will need to submit their inquiry through the safety help desk at tn.gov/safety. We're going to open it up to some questions now. Yes, John.
I just wanted to share something that you all shared with me that I think might be helpful for the counties. For the cities, every now and then, city will have an erroneous or mistaken report of failure to appear. And then whether it be the software glitches, they just forget to click something. But anyway, an FTA goes to the Department of Safety, they report that, and then the person gets a suspension notice, hey, you're gonna get suspended for an FTA for not showing up to court. And then the person who comes back to say, says, I was there. You remember me. Like, oh, I paid it. Here's my receipt. So I talked to them. If that person had been suspended, the job of the city would be to read or do a corrected court action report, send it to the corrections right there, explain why the mistake happened. And this is what I wanted to share. Normally, if you get suspended, there's a $65 reinstatement fee paid by the driver. If the city is the one that owns up that we made the mistake, and I'm assuming the county with the same court, whatever court is, we made a mistake, that reinstatement fee be waived. That's what you all told me one time. That's still right?
I think what we see more than anything that comes from the court that's we can't accept is they'll put on an unpaid ticket, sit in error, but then they'll also put on that same abstract paid, satisfied. So if they paid it, they're in compliance. So what was the error? So we don't know if the court is just trying to help them get it completely off their record and it wasn't a true error, or if there was some kind of reporting issue that we need to address to really take it off the record and not suspend the driver. But yes, if they complied, there is with the suspension, then there is a $65 fee. But if it is a true reporting error by the court, then we need to know what that is so we can remove it and no fee would be associated. They'd be put right back to valid.
Yeah, I just want to let you all know the same thing, because otherwise you don't want to be put in a situation where someone says, well, I don't want to pay this fee. City, you pay this fee. County, you pay this fee. And then you don't want to make a promise that you can't back up or haven't explored yet.
Yes, ma'am. How do you upload the documents that you're talking about on the portal?
You don't upload documents on the portal. It's electronic forms that you fill in the blanks and just hit submit. We don't need the actual paper document because you submit it electronically, you get that electronic signature.
Is there a menu item on the portal?
Yes, under court reporting. I don't have that slideshow with me, or I'll show you.
So do you already have access as a?
I do, but I pulled it up, but all I have is where I can pull up the driver to see what their reinstatement
Okay, we
requirement.
just need to change your level of access then. If you email that DOSHS, they'll change your access within 5 minutes. Just click of a button.
I have found on that site where it's supposed to be live, it's supposed to take care of it right now. I don't know if we submit it as something what you don't look at it as, like if it's compliance or if it's paid in full. We think something's paid in full, we'll do paid in full, but then it doesn't upload to the driver right away. It's days later before it ever.
If it doesn't process through the account immediately, there's something holding it up. Either citation numbers one off from what's on that driver requirement, Or if it needed to be a court certification, you submit it as satisfied in full, it won't remove it. It has to be to the T, but that.
How do we know? How do we match up that we're sending it in correctly?
That driver inquiry page. that you-
On what's like the driver reinstatement, what we print off there?
It'll tell you exactly what you need to submit.
Another indicator is if you've submitted a mandatory offense, then they're gonna need a court certification. But if you've submitted an FTA or an FTP default, we need to know that that was satisfied. So satisfied citation would be your choice.
Okay.
Yes.
How do y'all determine the reinstatement fee? I might have a reinstatement fee maybe $65, and I can have somebody that maybe $1,000.
So every offense in the statute, there is a fee that's tied to it. That's how those fees are determined. Yes.
Okay, so, if you have everything and you're eligible, they can go to any driver service center? Is that what I read?
Yes,
doesn't
if
have
their
to be
status is
reinstated.
eligible, they can put it in any center. But if they still have reinstatement requirements to meet, they need to go to a reinstatement center. Now, right now, those were limited to 5, but we have opened an additional 5. And in the next year, we intend to open all of our centers to have a reinstatement line. So that is an ongoing effort that we're working towards.
For the reinstatement centers. Sorry, what reinstatement centers are there at this?
So there is Hickory Hollow. There is Knoxville, Chattanooga, Bonnie Oak and Shelby County, Shelby Summer Avenue, Shelby. Shelby Drive.
Knoxville and Chattanooga. they
Yeah.
just-
And then they opened Alcoa, they opened Murfreesboro, they opened, well, I'll have to add, I'll get John the list, that way he can send it out. Yes. He can put it on the website for you guys.
I think that's where it's. I don't know if you can help me or not, but I've got a Tennessee driver that has a DUI. He got it in Alabama. He is in a halfway house, staying in Alabama right now with the recovery. I was not alcohol related. I had, our judge signed off on the paperwork. I got the waiver as because it wasn't alcohol related. I got the waiver signed by our judge, got it sent in. Then it got rejected and it said that paperwork had to come from Alabama. Well, I've spent time on the phone with Alabama trying to get that, and they say, well, we have to have something from Tennessee and we'll fill it out. Well, I can't get it filled out. They say, I don't know, we don't require an interlock on a DUI, whether it's alcohol related or drug related. We don't require that if it's your first one.
Are they trying to get a license in Alabama? Do they reside there now, or is it in Tennessee?
They're just in that halfway house for X amount of time. They still have the Tennessee license and the Tennessee home address.
So there's criteria on that waiver, such as drug related instead of alcohol. If they meet all of the criteria on the form, then they should, and if their revocation period is still active. If you're trying to get a restricted license, they can do that. If the revocation period is ended, if they meet the criteria, we should be able to waive the interlock requirement, but that's the requirement in Tennessee. Alabama's going to take action too because it occurred there, and he's going to have to meet, he or she's going to have to meet their requirements as well.
He's met their requirements there. I'm having trouble with Tennessee.
Will you send me, and I'll give you my email address so that I can review
Okay.
it.
Okay.
I don't want to make assumptions until I see what's going on.
Okay.
Couple questions in the chat. The first one is, how do we get a court action report?
So you can order those forms. It comes in an electronic version now too. They're on the state website, but you can also reach out to Nathan or the email.court and we will send you the electronic version to use going forward.
Another one is there a listing of action codes available?
There is a master copy of action codes. Again, if you guys will reach out to Nathan, he can send those codes to you.
I did just complete a mapping project and we're in the process of updating it, so there may be changes to it in the coming months. Just heads up on that if I do send it out to you.
Now, for the longest time, we didn't have an updated version of the mapping, and sometimes there were reporting issues because the action codes weren't necessarily mapping to the correct TCA, but we did undergo, as he said, a year-long project to update that mapping so that we can provide that to the courts.
When someone has, is coming to get their license reinstated and we fill out that court action report, a lot of times we would either fax it or email it to one of your support people and then give them a copy to take to a reinstatement center. And then we were told later, don't send that to us because we're not going to accept it. I mean, it was in times past and times change, and I realize that, is that still the?
We have 5 million drivers in Tennessee, and there's a staff of maybe 15 or 20 that are working reinstatements. The email.court has always been specifically for corrections. So if you were sending a compliance document to reinstate, she's one person, that court liaison, and she can handle all of the drivers herself. So that's why we don't accept them at that address.
Okay.
We do encourage you to let the driver upload so that you're not responsible for that piece of it. But if you've got electronic reporting, it'll go in real time if it's through our portal, and it goes in overnight if you have a third-party vendor. But in answer to your question, yes, we don't process it from that one email. Now, we may forward it for a period of time to someone from the entire unit to work it.
Yeah.
But that into, we're getting them all. So we gotta man it again. So we try to limit it. And the fax number, we actually took our fax number off of all of our letters because we again want to encourage use of our drivers to use the online upload feature.
Yeah.
So.
So the electronic reporting that we do for chances, how long does that take to process? Like if someone's paid something and they need the OS to see that it's not satisfied by the courts, how long does that usually take?
As long as everything is correct, it's a 24-hour turnaround.
So it's going in
At a
overnight.
maximum, if you submit it 4 p.m., it'll be on the record at 2 a.m. So the
So basically, we hand them paperwork and say, go to a reinstatement center. You'll probably already have that information showing that it's been satisfied. And they
the
have
report was correct and then get thrown in that error queue.
And again, the more we encourage that online use, they can upload their documents. They can be processed. And then in a lot of cases, they can actually reissue online and avoid the center altogether. So that's really the direction we're trying to point our drivers to control the volume of drivers we have in Tennessee.
When we get compliance documents emailed to us, it gets added to a compliance queue that we have, and it's currently backlogged about 100,000 work items. We have been working on it. We've knocked it down about 30,000's worth in the past 2 or 3 months, but it's a pretty large backlog. That's why it takes so long to get processed. We still have the report. It's just waiting to be worked. That's why we're trying to encourage this electronic reporting for compliance items.
Did you have, yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry, regarding the airline requirements for the non-alcohol related charges, is there any waiver for that?
Yes, there is a waiver, but we don't give the waiver. It's not a blank waiver. We don't give the waiver unless we review it first on that particular driver, and then we issue it from the driver account. So we'll look at it before we give the waiver and make sure there's not a prior offense or there's not an accident with that DUI. Some of that criterion that they shouldn't have one if it's on the record.
Is there anything from court that we can help these people to comply with those requirements to be able to get that waiver?
No, because if they had an accident with their DUI, they're just not going to qualify to have that waived, that interlock. So again, if you've got a driver and they're requesting, they need to reach out. If they're requesting a waiver, they need to reach out to us. We'll look at that specific record, check to make sure they qualify for a waiver, and then we will issue it. The problem in the past has been we're given waivers, but they didn't qualify in the first place. And then they're mad and throwing a fit and pointing the finger at the department. Well, why did you give me this if I don't qualify?
So can they
So
go any
center, or they can contact our 866 number, and any person from there will look at the account. Yes.
So when we're submitting like compliance or satisfactions from the portal,
I will get a notification sometimes and it says you have errored or rejected items. And I think we've emailed you and you said to look at it by the date, but when we search the date, it says there's nothing found.
That's because the staff's already worked it. Did you get any email saying that certain report was an error and you can't find it on that error list? It's because staff's already completed it, either rejected it or processed it, whatever the case may be. If you found it in that rejected list on the portal, that means we rejected it. If it's not in that list, then we processed it.
So how do we know if something can be on a payment plan versus paid in full?
All of your mandatory offenses have to be paid in full, excluding driving on suspended and revoked. As the law changed in 2016 for that, it's no longer a mandatory offense. It's now a meeting violation. And if we have an older one that was prior to 2016 on the record that still needs that court certification, the department can put them on a payment plan and accept that to reinstate.
So if they've already defaulted on the payment plan, do they have to do a restricted license?
If it's outside of the 30-day window when they reestablish, they've got two choices. They can do the restricted license, or they can pay it in full. They can reinstate after it's paid.
Say if any of these were 2016.
Just the driving on suspended and revoked.
For people trying to, you're encouraging your drivers to upload themselves. We run into the issue, a lot of the clientele that we try to help, they change phone numbers, email addresses, just like they changed their clothes. But
If you'll point them to the 866 number, they can reset their password.
okay,
We'll verify that it is them who we're speaking with their
Okay.
PII, their personal information, and then we'll reset it so that they have access to do their driver account.
okay.
The reporting that we would send to the one email and then the corrections that we send to the other email, are all of those things we can do on the portal?
The corrections and email report are not on the portal.
Okay.
Those are your sitting there, or you're dismissed, or those will go to the court liaison. She has to manually review those and manually correct those. All of your court reporting, your convictions and your abstracts and all of that on the front end, those go through the DOSHS. Oh, that's where you're at.
Yes, got some chat questions. So for, let's see, the court portal website, does it report immediately if they send it to the portal? If somebody's on their way to get their license that same day?
Yes, as long as they are a Tennessee license holder, it will post automatically as soon as you hit that submit button. The server's busy. I've seen it take 2 minutes, but typically it's instant.
They only allowed one-time payment plans and then apply for a restricted order. Criminal cost is not traffic.
I don't think it specified that it's a one-time court payment plan. And matter of fact, if they do default and it's outside of that 30-day window, they have to obtain that order for restricted license. That order is more or less saying they've reestablished a payment plan and give them a restricted license.
One more. Individual has interlocked device form. Individual has interlocked device form for from and DUI charge. The time period is up for that. How does this individual get the interlocked device removed?
I get this question more than anything else on a daily basis, and it always comes all the way to the top to me. If they have an interlock requirement, they have to maintain the ignition interlock device for the length of their revocation period with a valid license and until the department approves removal of the device. So if they have a DUI second, they have to maintain it for 2 years. If it's a DUI one, they have to maintain it for 1 year. But the process for removal, all the communication while they have to have it is monthly with that interlock provider. Once that interlock provider determines you've served your time, we need to schedule a final calibration. Once that service is completed, If they've met the interlock providers portion successfully, that provider will send the department a certificate of compliance. That initiates the department to review the case. And if they've met our side of compliance, we will then approve removal of the device. Now, if they have an unauthorized removal, that can start their time all over. If they have failed calibrations, meaning they didn't pass their blows every month, or they didn't get calibrated within the 30-day time frame every month that law requires, then it could extend their time by 120 days. So those are the types of things that we're looking at when we get that certificate of compliance that determines whether or not we approve the removal. If we do approve it, we send a letter of removal to the driver, letting them know they can go to a center, issue a new license without that restriction code on it, and then go remove the device. Those are all the moving parts to that.
And to add to what Director Morgan just said, if they don't have a valid license or a restricted valid, that time for the interlock is not counting. That 365 is not counting if they don't have a valid or a valid restricted license.
They have to have, and that's why I stressed it earlier, they have to have a valid license with a valid license, because we do not give interlock credit without it. So it can be a restricted license, it has to be, a reinstated valid license or restricted license. Credit to be given.
But we'll get for restricted count.
It does count, yes, ma'am.
What determines when somebody has to go down to the DMV to get a new license? Like the whole new license, to make sure the whole 9 yards.
If they have to have a new photo every other cycle. So if they issued and then they're up for renewal, if they went into the center that when they issued that renewal, they'll be able to do online. We have to have a new photo every other cycle. Also, our system is going to randomly want people to come in to resubmit their documents at random or to make sure we're meeting real ID compliance. So we may not have a birth certificate on file and it's time for them to renew it. They're going to have to come in if we don't have those documents on file so we can ensure we do have them to meet that compliance.
So a license being suspended doesn't make a difference. Because
No.
I've had people come in and like, it's been 3 years since they've had a license or 4 years and they're wanting to know if they need to go to the
It
DMV.
does make a difference. If they were suspended, we don't get them that often, but we do get that scenario happen. If they were suspended or revoked for an entire driver license cycle, then they're going to have to go to a center and reissue.
And if their license reads as eligible, they need to get a new one.
Any more?
For expungement. Currently, we send you guys, completed expungement orders for traffic violations that are convictions. Do you guys require dismissals? I don't think we've
No.
been sending them as dismissed.
No, if we get an expungement, even if we didn't get a dismissal for it, if it's been expunged, we're going to take it off the record now. If it's for a charge, it may not be fungible. We'll run it by legal due to some federal ruling that happened last year that still required expunge it. But once they say yes, expunge it, we do expunge it. Take it off the record.
I mean, I guess my question is, do you need all of those?
No,
No.
we just need the expungement.
Just- Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't know if your unit can answer this, but if I go get a driver's license before my time is up, is my driver's license now due at the same time it would have been, or does it extend it from when I got it?
So if you go get a new license because you lost yours, we're going to give you a duplicate license if it's not time to renew. So it's still going to expire when it's set to expire originally.
That's what I told my.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you having us today. If you do have any questions for any of us, please feel free to reach out. You may have spoken with me before because over the years I have worked at the courts, but we have an open door. We'll help you with anything. Thank you.